I have been a monk for 53 years. In that time, I have watched many people come to our monastery seeking something they cannot name. They arrive restless, eyes moving, hands unable to be still. They tell me they need peace, they need answers, they need to understand. What I have learned is that they already have what they seek. They have simply forgotten how to be quiet enough to notice it. When I was younger, before I came here, I was like them. I had a good job, a car I was proud of, plans that seemed important. I would lie awake at night thinking about what I did not yet have, what I had not yet become. The future pulled at me like a hook in my chest. I remember the feeling exactly, that sense that real life was waiting somewhere ahead, that I was always preparing for something that never quite arrived. I was 28 years old, and I had not yet had a single day of peace. Not one. I thought this was normal. I thought everyone felt this way, that the tightness in my chest was simply what it meant to be alive and ambitious. There was an old monk at the monastery where I first came to visit. His name was Geshe Rinzin. He must have been 90 then, maybe older. His hands shook when he poured tea. He moved slowly, as if his body was very heavy or the air around him was very thick. I was impatient watching him. I had come seeking wisdom, and here was this old man taking 5 minutes to pour water into a cup. But he saw me fidgeting and he smiled. He said, "You are in a great hurry to get nowhere." I did not understand what he meant. I thought he was being cryptic in that way spiritual teachers sometimes are, saying things that sound profound but mean nothing. What I did not understand then was that he was simply describing what he saw. I was racing toward nothing, building a life that would collapse the moment I stopped moving fast enough to hold it up. I asked him how to find peace. This is what everyone asks. He looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "Stop doing the things that destroy your peace, and it will find you." I was disappointed. I had come all this way for a teacher to tell me something that I could have read in a book. I wanted to practice a technique, 10 steps to enlightenment. He laughed at the look on my face. He said, "You want me to give you something to do, but what you need is to stop doing." I left that conversation thinking he had not helped me at all. It took me 3 years to understand he had given me everything. What he meant was this: peace is not something you achieve or build or earn. It is what remains when you stop creating its opposite. It is like a clear pool of water. You do not need to create the clarity. You need to stop throwing stones into it. Every time you reach for something you do not have, you throw a stone. Every time you replay yesterday or rehearse tomorrow, you throw a stone. Every time you compare yourself to another person, every time you decide you are not enough until you become more, you throw stones. Then you look at the water and say, "Where is my peace? Why is everything so disturbed?" And the answer is simple: you are disturbing it. I stayed at that first monastery for 2 years before I took vows. In those 2 years I learned something that changed everything. I learned that my mind was not my friend. It was not trying to help me. It was simply doing what minds do, creating problems to solve, inventing dissatisfactions to fix, telling stories about the past and the future while the only moment I had was this one. I would sit in meditation and watch my thoughts, the way you might watch cars passing on a road. Most of them were lies, not deliberate lies, but distortions, stories about who I was and what I needed. What I am telling you is that you cannot believe everything you think. This sounds obvious, but it is not obvious at all. Most people live their entire lives believing every thought that crosses their mind, following wherever it leads, never questioning whether the thoughts are true or helpful, or even theirs. I remember one morning I was sweeping the courtyard. This was my duty most days. I had been a monk for maybe 6 months at that point, and I was struggling. My mind was full of doubt. I kept thinking about the life I had left behind, the career I had abandoned, the years I was wasting here when I could be building something real out there in the world. I was holding the broom and not sweeping, just standing there lost in these thoughts, when Geshe Rinzin walked past. He stopped and watched me for a moment. Then he said, "That is a very dirty broom." I looked down. The broom was clean. I said, "No, it is not." He smiled. "I'm not talking about the broom you are holding. I'm talking about the broom in your mind. You are sweeping the courtyard with thoughts about somewhere else, so you are in neither place. The courtyard is not clean, and your mind is not at rest." This became a teaching I never forgot. Wherever you are, be there. Whatever you are doing, do only that. This is how you stop throwing stones into the water. But most people do not do this. They are washing dishes but thinking about work. They are at work but thinking about what they will do when they get home. They are with one person but thinking about another. They are eating but not tasting, walking but not feeling their feet on the ground, living an entire life one step removed from the present moment, and then wondering why they feel so absent from their own existence. The years passed and I became more settled. My mind grew quieter, not because I had achieved anything, but because I had stopped chasing so many things. The monastery is very simple. We wake, we meditate, we work, we eat, we study, we sleep. Every day is the same, and that sameness becomes a kind of freedom. There's nothing to figure out, nothing to optimize, no decisions about who to become or what to pursue. At first, this simplicity felt like deprivation. I missed variety, excitement, the feeling of progress. But slowly I began to notice something underneath all that. There was a stillness that had always been there, beneath every busy day and racing thought. It did not come and go. It was always present, waiting. I'd just been too loud and too busy to notice it. Geshe Rinzin grew older. His body became more frail. He stopped teaching classes, stopped taking meetings with visitors. But he would still sit in the garden every morning, and sometimes I would sit with him. We did not speak much. He would close his eyes and I would watch the birds or the clouds or the way sunlight moved across the stones. One morning I asked him, "What is the most important thing you have learned in all your years of practice?" He was quiet for a long time. I thought maybe he had not heard me. But then he opened his eyes and looked at me, and he said, "I learned that I could die at any moment and I would have no regrets. Not because I did everything I wanted to do, but because I wanted to do everything I did." I did not fully understand this then either, but I have thought about it almost every day since. What he meant was that he had learned to want what he had instead of having what he wanted. This is the secret to contentment, and almost no one discovers it. People spend their whole lives chasing the next thing, believing that when they finally get it, they will be satisfied. But the goal line keeps moving. The new job becomes routine. The new house needs updating. The new relationship reveals its flaws. There's always something else to want, always something to improve, always a gap between here and there. And that gap is where suffering lives. Geshe Rinzin had closed the gap, not by getting everything he wanted, but by wanting what he already had. By learning to see that this moment, exactly as it is enough. He died on a Tuesday morning in winter. I was with him. He had been sick for several weeks, but he was very clear and present at the end. He asked me to sit close, and he held my hand. His hand was cold and light, like holding a bird. He said, "Young, I want to tell you something before I go." I leaned closer. He said, "Everything I taught you can be forgotten, but remember this one thing. You already are what you are trying to become. Stop trying and you will see." Then he closed his eyes and he was gone. His face did not change. He looked the same as he did when he was sleeping, except something essential had left and I could feel the absence. I think about his last words all the time. They seemed like a riddle when he said them, but they are not a riddle. They are as simple as anything can be. You are looking for peace, for wholeness, for enoughness, and you believe you must become someone else to find these things. You believe you must achieve more, fix yourself, transcend your limitations. But you already have what you are looking for. The peace is already there. The wholeness is already there. It is your natural state. You have just covered it over with so much striving and seeking that you cannot see it anymore. Stop trying to become, and you will discover you already are. I know this sounds too simple. I know you are thinking, but I have real problems, real things that need to change. I cannot just sit here and be content with suffering. And I am not saying that. I am not saying do nothing. I am saying do what needs to be done without the story that you are broken and need fixing. Act from wholeness, not from lack. There is a difference between changing your life because you see clearly what serves you and what does not, and changing your life because you believe you are not enough until you do. One comes from stillness, the other comes from fear. One creates peace, the other creates more seeking. I have watched many people come to the monastery over the decades. They arrive exhausted and they want to rest. But they do not know how to rest. Even here, in this quiet place, they make projects out of their healing. They turn peace into another thing to achieve. They sit in meditation and think, am I doing this right? Am I getting more peaceful? How long until I am enlightened? This is like trying to fall asleep by forcing yourself to relax. The effort defeats the purpose. Peace comes when you stop trying to find it. It comes when you stop dividing your life into here and there, now and later, good enough and not good enough. It comes when you finally land in this moment and see that this moment is all you ever have and all you ever need. What I am telling you is something I learned by living it, not by reading about it or thinking about it. For 53 years I have practiced being here, in this moment, doing this task, breathing this breath. Some days I am present and the world is alive and beautiful, and I feel grateful for the simplest things. The taste of rice, the sound of rain, the weight of my robes. Other days, my mind wanders, and I am no different from who I was at 28, lying awake worrying about nothing. I am not perfect. I am not enlightened. I am simply someone who has spent a long time looking at this one question. How do I stop suffering unnecessarily? And I have found some answers that work. I offer them to you not as truth that you must believe, but as bread that I am sharing because I have some, and you look hungry. The monastery bell is ringing now, calling us to evening meditation. I will go and sit in the hall with the other monks, and we will be silent together. This is my practice, and it has been my practice for more than 50 years, sitting quietly, watching my mind, returning again and again to the present moment. It is simple, but it is not easy. It requires everything, and what it gives in return is everything. Not the everything you thought you wanted, but the everything that was here all along, waiting for you to stop looking elsewhere and finally see it.